Listen closely, chosen ones. They thought they could toy with you, push you around as if you were just another pawn on their crumbling board. They believed that you, handcrafted by divine fire, sharpened by storms, protected by forces they couldn't even comprehend, would simply stand there and accept defeat. They plotted behind closed doors, spun lies in smoky rooms, and laughed, thinking their schemes would be your downfall. But what they failed to realize is this: when you target the chosen, you challenge the very architecture of the universe itself. And the universe never forgets. It doesn't overlook debts or allow injustice to go uncorrected. They thought they were building an empire out of deception, stacking up their lies like fragile towers of cards, convinced they were too clever to fall. But illusions are fragile, and when they collapse, it's not silent. It's an explosion heard across every realm. You, chosen one, did what Elon Musk, with all his dreams and resources, once said he could never do. You overcame the invisible war. You outlasted betrayal without losing your soul. You stayed standing when the very ground tried to swallow you. You moved mountains not with noise, but with silent, unstoppable force. Don't ignore the pull if this speaks to you, or if something within of you is awakening. By like and subscribing to this video, you are sending a signal. You transform this energy into a wave, and their false reality burns up more quickly the more woke people there are. Let's turn the attention to you now. You allowed them to infiltrate your thoughts and cause you to doubt your own abilities, what the cosmos has already determined about you. How could you question that? You weren't given this light so a few cunning individuals might dull it. And you weren't placed here by accident. They made you believe that you were weak. However, I would want to know why they made such an attempt to break you if you were so helpless. Why did they have to deceive, mislead, and manipulate you in order to keep you from moving forward if you really lack strength? To tell the truth, they were scared. They would never publicly acknowledge it, but they shuddered at the thought of you waking up. You would immediately cease questioning yourself because the instant you realize who you really are, they vanish. Their power was always borrowed, stolen, or based on a false impression. And now that phony image is disintegrating. You are the irresistible force they never anticipated. You are not weak. They thought they were building an empire, but in reality, they were burying themselves. They persuaded themselves they were winning more and more as they dug deeper. The earth underneath them is suddenly beginning to crack. They played innocently, laughed against the cosmos, distorted energy, and questioned the basic force that maintains equilibrium. Cosmic equilibrium is now arriving to get what is rightfully its. Their environment seems unstable, and there's a cause for their anxiety. It's cause and effect, not chance. All of their falsehoods, treasonous deeds, and hollow promises are coming back to haunt them. At first, they believed karma to be a hazy idea, but they were unaware that it was a hunter smashing down the door rather than knocking. For them, your presence is a curse. Every breath you take, every time you remain standing, is a nightmare they can't escape. The fact that you were selected and they weren't will always haunt them, regardless of what they accomplish. They will never be you, even if they attempt to emulate everything you do. What's intended for you can never be taken. So even if others attempt to feed off your energy, it will burn them from the inside out. You cannot stop what is meant for you. They sought to stifle your inner strength. In actuality, however, you became stronger each time they attempted to bring you down. For too long, you doubted yourself, felt alone, and wondered whether what they said was true. They weren't. Every instant they snickered behind your back, every tear, every betrayal. The cosmos saw it all. The vibe is changing now. When the universe responds, the same individuals who played with your innocence will soon see what transpires. Under their feet, the same bulky bricks they placed all around you are collapsing. And there's no way out this time. The cosmos moves like a furious storm, like an unquenchable fire, like the devastation these manipulators believe they might avoid when it goes ahead for those it has selected. Karma doesn't come to bargain. They are already paying a heavy price for tampering with your innocence. Keep watching if you're prepared to see how karma will strike them like a ton of bricks. This message is for you if you are really drawn to hear every word that the universe wants you to comprehend. If you notice this change in the atmosphere, leave the number 77 in the comments section. Since their demise is already underway, let's dissect it piece by piece now. They first believed that no one could touch them. The universe has suddenly picked them out, however. They are destined to be devoured by the same flames they played with. They are drowning in the same bill they thought they would never have to pay, and the cosmos never ignores a debt. They thought they were clever enough to play on your innocence and get away with it. They chuckled behind your back, believing they were smarter than you, that you were under their control, and that you were exhausted. They didn't pause to consider that they were facing something far more formidable when they tried to play with you. They weren't only making fun of you, they were contesting the whole system that maintains order. Your innocence wasn't a soft quality. It was a kind of shield-like power that even they unwittingly had. They used your purity as a shield to play their nefarious games while standing in the brightness of your light and conspiring in the darkness. However, as soon as they tore it away, they exposed themselves to a force they are ill-prepared to deal with, the full consequences of their actions. You see, innocence has a unique effect. It helps keep peace, softens punishment, and extends kindness, even to those who don't really deserve it. They were able to avoid the same karma that is now consuming them, because to the cushion. And believing they had won, they threw it away. It most likely seemed that way at first. It's possible that you even thought they got away with it, leaving you behind and continuing on, as if nothing had occurred. But take a deeper look. Everything is changing. Suddenly, the strategies they were depending on aren't functioning. The simple breezes they relied on have become incomprehensible challenges. Their own turmoil is causing them to plod along, and no one is there to defend them for the first time. They saw your generosity as weakness and your compassion as blindness. But consider this. Why did they have to lie and twist so much to keep you in line if you were really so helpless? Why would they go to such lengths if you were indeed so easily broken? They always understood in their hearts that you were a force of nature just by being. You provided them with a kind of refuge they were unaware they were taking advantage of. They are now completely exposed as that shelter has been removed. With a force they attempted to avoid, every action they took, every lie they uttered, and every game they played are all coming back to haunt them. You wondered if you were simply another pawn in their little plot, and you spent nights doubting your strength. How could you be so underestimating yourself? Every tear, every act of treachery, every silent moment when you questioned if justice would ever be served, the cosmos saw it all. The solution is occurring in front of your own eyes at this very now. Not only did they lose you, but they also lost the sole thing that was preserving their planet. They thought they could scam their way out, change reality and destiny to suit their own desires, and then laugh as they left. What they failed to see, however, is that the world is not passive. It is merciless when it does act to protect those it has selected. They thought they were building an empire, but in reality, they dug their own graves. Now, as the earth cracks under them, they stand there, utterly bewildered, holding a shovel. In reality, it was never you against them. They were up against the law of cause and consequence, and no one can escape that. Assuming that karma was only a myth you tell credulous people, they wagered. They are now seeing that she is really genuine, and that she does not provide refunds. Then they believed they were in charge. However, they now have more debt to the cosmos than they can pay. Acting as if the universe wouldn't come to collect, They wasted years stealing things that never belonged to them, with interest so high that it makes people gasp. The bill is now on the table. They signed a universal contract that they never bothered to read, so they did more than simply harm you or tell you lies. Every time they spoke dishonestly or perverted your good character for their own benefit, they added weight to an unclean cosmic account. They left believing they were innocent and that there were no consequences for what they had done. However, manipulation usually comes with a price. Furthermore, partial payments are not allowed under universal law. For them, it seemed easy at first. Like parasites, they drained your vitality, betrayed your confidence, and flourished on your light, thinking they had gained control. However, they were unaware that all of the energy they used was borrowed rather than directly taken. Additionally, goods borrowed must be returned with interest. This is the oldest law in existence. It has nothing to do with small-time retaliation or some kind of revenge fantasy. If you steal anything unjustly, you will have to pay for it many times over. They may believe that time would set them free and that the heat subsided, allowing them to avoid the bullet. Karma doesn't operate that way. Their timeline doesn't work with karma, and they don't care about their justifications or efforts to change the plot. Karma hunts patiently. It waits, observes, and then surprises them with a blow. They won't see it coming, which is the worst part. They haven't prepared themselves for impact since they've spent so much time thinking they're above everything. Little hiccups in their relationships, transactions that abruptly go awry, or the nagging suspicion that something is amiss will be the first things to go wrong. They'll question why nothing seems safe these days. They tampered with energies that they didn't completely comprehend, which is why. And now, they are crumbling under the weight of their actions. There is no way out, nowhere to hide, and no secret way to reverse the domino effect they initiated. Reality is forming around them, forcing them to confront what they have endured. This is not only some ethereal spiritual idea. They have to give back all of the energy they took from you. It's almost comical that they won't see it immediately. They failed to see the train coming down the tracks because they were so certain that they were invincible. You don't have to do anything now. The cosmos is here to collect. You don't need to seek retribution or pursue justice. You don't do that. The system operates independently. It doesn't need your assistance or meddling. Everything was being observed by the universe. Additionally, it involves balancing those scales in ways you may not even be aware of. They believed they could ignore cause and effect and continue to take from you without facing any consequences. However, every action has an impact, and there are larger betrayals for everyone. When those waves eventually come back, their strength is far greater than the damage they caused. Not only are they losing control today, but they are also seeing the disintegration of their whole deceptive world. They will attempt to behave as if nothing has happened, but on the inside, they are choking on dread and burdened by an inexplicable weight. And they are aware of the precise reason why it is occurring in the back of their mind. They know deep down that they're paying a heavy price for taking advantage of your innocence and that karma is unchangeable. In addition, they are now choking on their own poison after drinking from your cup. Stealing fire is not a way to avoid being burnt. You can't expect your life to prosper by stealing from someone else. They have a poison in their veins from what they ingested, and there is no cure. Using your essence to strengthen their own ego and feeling of control like leeches. They felt they got away with feeding off your energy and receiving nothing in return. They believed that your light would never run out and that they could use it indefinitely. Energy, however, changes form rather than just disappearing. And that energy becomes vile when you steal from someone in a perverse manner. In addition to robbing you, they ruined everything they took. If they had been deserving, your energy could have pulled them up. It was brilliant and clean. However, they weren't. They perverted it instead of respecting it. Furthermore, Corruption is increasingly permeating every aspect of their life. They may not even attribute their problems to their actions. They just feel disgusted or bored as they see their efforts fail, their accomplishments fall apart, and they feel as if others are moving away from them. The achievement that was once effortless is now abruptly unattainable. Their stolen energy has now been turned against them, eating away at their tranquility, stability, and very essence. They thought they could steal your power and seize it for themselves, that they could plunder the cosmos and distort the natural order. However, they only managed to trap themselves. They were never intended for such energy. Furthermore, holding on to something that isn't yours betrays you from the inside out. It's similar to drinking from a cup you stole and discovering too late that it would lead to your demise. They want your brightness, but showed no regard for the source of that light. Now, it's igniting a fire underneath everything they come into contact with. This isn't only karma in a theoretical sense. Right now, the universe is making amends by giving back what was stolen, but in a way people would never want. They sense it intensifying, that tense, restless feeling, that void they are unable to fill. To continue the cycle, they may attempt to steal from others, but this will not succeed. They mark themselves the instant they tampered with the energy of a real chosen one. Furthermore, you don't need to spend any time or effort considering repayment. It's being handled by the stolen energy itself. When the universe notices, it makes sure that the equilibrium is restored. They will never gain anything from what they stole from you. They thought they were stealing your authority. In actuality, however, they authored their own downfall. You can then see how they use sand to build their complete concept. The tide is now coming in to take back all they took. A kingdom built on lies is nothing more than a heap of sand. They will strike the earth more forcefully the larger their pyramid of falsehoods. They have nowhere to hide now that the water is getting closer. As they accumulated victories by deceitful tactics, they believed they were in control and were securing a bright future. As if there were no larger plan, they messed with people's lives, tugged threads, and set up results. They were wrong because everything that is based on deception inevitably fails. The prosperity they displayed was really an illusion created by their stealing what was rightfully yours. There was no real value being added by them. They were using stolen energy as the glue to repair a wobbly illusion in the hopes that it would hold. It appeared to work for a while. Confident that they had discovered a golden throne, they strutted about, bolstered by their own falsehoods. They defrauded you, depleted you, deceived you into being kind to them, and deluded themselves that this gave them power. However, the fissures are clearly visible. They are losing control of all they have built, and they are unable to comprehend why their previous plans aren't working. Their once smooth journey is now fraught with dangers. They are unaware that their whole facade is disintegrating, and every tactic they have ever used is backfiring. Since stolen energy is unfaithful, the cosmos is gradually reclaiming what they took. They are now being undone from inside by the same power that twisted them to deceive you. They never understood it was just sand, but they thought they were on solid ground. They couldn't have guessed how quickly and forcefully that tide would come in, and they're unable to stop it. Their imaginary kingdom was never really theirs, despite their best efforts to keep it together. It was a falsehood. A kingdom made of bricks that they tore from you was a glimmer of false light, and those blocks are crumbling one by one. They never prepared for the moment when everything fell apart because they had spent so much time deluding themselves into believing that their achievement was real. Additionally, you may have felt dejected, as if they had triumphed and abandoned you. You'll see them scurrying, however, if you listen carefully now. The one thing they thought they had mastered is slipping away from them, and they are disintegrating. The best part about it is that there is nothing for you to do. This has always been under the power of the universe. You never wanted retribution for it. Restoring equilibrium is the goal, and it always takes time. They rode on what they stole from you and went high. And now, with no safety net in sight, they are falling. Now that the tide has come, it is gathering all of the things that were never supposed to belong to them. Ultimately, remorse follows them wherever they go, and they are unable to escape their own shadow. You may postpone certain penalties and stay away from specific persons and places. You cannot, however, hide from yourself. They are unable to leave the prison of their own conscience. As if their deeds would never adhere to them, they believe they could leave the deception, the treachery, and the mind games behind. Whatever they did to you, they told themselves, was just a little diversion, something they could change or remove. However, they failed to consider one important factor: the mind never forgets. They may attempt to avoid you by occupying themselves with unfamiliar people, habits, and environments, but they are unable to avoid their image in the mirror. They are unable to flee the silent times. And in that silence, their shame seethes into their minds, becoming louder. Guilt has a way of showing through, no matter how hard they try to avoid it. The pictures are replayed in their memory when everything is quiet. They remember the expression on your face when they harmed you, the words they used to deceive you, and the weight of everything they did. This is true every time they lied to you or twisted your compassion. No one else can be held responsible. They will convince themselves that you were just too delicate, that they had valid reasons, or that it wasn't a huge problem. However, none of the justifications can override the reality. They know deep inside